Welcome in to Behind the Mic, live from Grunions Sports Bar and Grill here in Manhattan Beach. Brad and Keith hanging out on this Wednesday night, June the 13th, 2018. Lots to get into this evening. We're going to preview the U.S. Open coming up tomorrow, actually, from just off of Long Island in New York. We're going to talk about how Tiger's going to do, Phil Mickelson, the rest of the field as well. We'll check in with Luke Norris. You can check him out on Twitter at @TheLukeNorris. He's a golf writer for Fansided. He'll join us in just a couple of minutes. We'll also talk about the Dodgers tonight. Breaking news from a couple of hours ago, the Triple G Canelo Alvarez rematch is on, Keith. It's going to take place in September, just after Labor Day. We're excited about that one. Sam Darnold impressing people so far in New York and the Big Apple with the Jets. Some people think he can start. We'll discuss it. Julio Jones is a no-show right now at Atlanta Falcons minicamp, but Matt Ryan and company seems to think they're going to get him there by time training camp gets going in about a month or so in July. So a lot to get to tonight as we really cover the world of sports in total. Brad and Keith, as we bring you inside now, online at BehindTheMicShow.com. You can also listen to us on the go on the Behind the Mic app. Keith, how are things going tonight?
Things are going great, man. Just
awesome.
Excited about this fight that's about to come up soon in September.
Yes. You're not that surprised they got this finalized.
Nah, I'm not surprised. We talked about it before, and we knew it was going to get finalized. Triple G had until a certain date to basically say that he was going to do this fight, and he did, and so it's on. And September 15th. Remember, if they don't do it in May in Cinco de Mayo, they do it in September, and that's obvious. That's a good place to do it, and let's get it on, man. Let's see what this is about.
It's going to be fun. It's great to see that. Obviously, everyone kind of sets their differences aside, so we're looking forward to that coming up, like I said, just after Labor Day, the rematch of Canelo and Triple G. Now we're going to preview the U.S. Open. As I said, it gets underway tomorrow from Long Island in New York. Shinnecock, one of the toughest golf courses in all of really the golf world right now, and I don't think anything's going to change with that this week. Let's bring in now officially Luke Norris. He's a golf writer for Fansided, fansided.com. Follow him on Twitter at @TheLukeNorris. Luke, how are things going tonight, man? Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me, Brad. Glad to be here.
Hey, we're trying to handicap this U.S. Open this weekend because we know the last time the Open was there back in 2004, it made things a little bit difficult even for some of the best golfers in all of the world of golf, Luke. So just some of your initial thoughts going into the tournament this weekend. What's some of the biggest storyline? Actually, what's the biggest storyline at this point in time? What should we be focusing on?
I think, as far as the golf course goes, it is going to be different, and, we'll hit on that in a minute, but we all know what the biggest storyline is going in here. It's as long as he's in the field, it's always going to be Tiger Woods. That's just the way it is. He's one of those guys that moves the needle. He's Jordan, he's Jeter, he's LeBron. He's just one of those kinds of guys. Outside of him, I do want to wait on him for a second because I know some people do get a little sick of Tiger sometimes, but I think there are other storylines out there. You can take anybody in the top 10 in the world right now and call them part of the story because they are. Dustin Johnson, for instance, just reclaimed the world number one, after losing it for a few weeks to Justin Thomas. So he's coming back. He just won by 6 in Memphis, shot 19 under for the week, pulled out on 18 for Eagle to close things out. And there's Justin Thomas. How will he react to losing number one? World number 3, Justin Rose. That's Mr. Consistency. He won this tournament 5 years ago. Jordan Spieth has won this thing. John Rahm is the only player in the top 5 without a major. There's Rory. There's when will Ricky Fowler get that major? The guy's got 8 top 5s in majors. Jason Day's there. Brooks Koepka is the defending champ. When will Hideki Matsuyama do his thing? There's so many different storylines that could play out this week.
And Luke, I wanted to know, what about Jason Day? How does he, as he's preparing for the PGA, how is he going to fare out? Do you think he's going to fare out in this?
You're breaking up on me there, Brad.
Luke, this is Keith. Keith from, I was trying to ask you about Jason Day. How do you think he's going to fare out on the green coming up?
About Jason Day?
Yeah, Jason Day.
Sorry, I'm having a real hard.
Okay.
Jason Day. I think his game works well here. I think he's really consistent, and I think the big thing with him and a lot of guys this week is going to be putting. Jason Day's putter has been red hot this year. He's first on the PGA Tour in strokes gained putting, which means he saves a lot of pars. And when you're talking about a U.S. Open, especially one with greens like this, then pars are going to be key. I mean, if you go back to 2004, the last time the U.S. Open was here, there were only two guys under par for the week. There was Retief Goosen, who won the thing, and Phil Mickelson. So I think Jason Day's length, his accuracy, he knows how to win a major. I think his game sets up well here.
Let's keep it with the putting here, Luke. Are these greens the toughest that any of these guys are going to see in any major at all this year?
Absolutely. I mean, me and a couple of my golf buddies, we were watching a video just this morning. There's a guy just dropped the ball on the green. There was a little slope there, but not much.
I saw this. This is absolutely crazy.
Did you see the video on golf?
They drop it on the green very lightly, and it rolls all the way off. I've never seen anything like it in my entire life. Crazy.
No, I mean, the closest thing I can remember like that was like the first time that these guys played Pinehurst back in '99.
Okay.
It was so surprising to see shots will go up, and then you got some of these false fronts where you think you've hit a good shot. And golf has always been a game of inches, and it's always going to be. But if you're off by a couple inches here, I mean, you're talking bringing doubles and triples into play. And I don't think it's not going to be the monstrosity that it was in '04. The course is under new management, new setup. It is going to play longer. It's still going to play fast, but it's going to play fair. Phil Mickelson interview this week, he said it's more fair, and he called it a carnival course back in '04. And so when Phil Mickelson is happy with the USGA setup, I think that's a good sign.
Luke Norris joining us from Fanside. He does a great job putting out some publications for them. How does it compare? What are some of the differences? I mean, how about this? What's one of the biggest similarities, and maybe give us one of the biggest differences compared to now at Shinnecock and back in '04?
Well, I think the similarities are still going to be the greens. I mean, the greens are still going to be fast. Like I was just saying, I mean, they're not going to be ridiculous where these guys can't get up and down. But the greens are going to be fast, but that's what you get into when you get into a U.S. Open. People talk about Augusta constantly and the greens there and all that, but U.S. Open is always a little different in a lot of different ways, and these fast greens are going to be something like that. So I think that's a similarity. As far as a difference, the course is going to play longer. It's about 500 yards longer overall. The wind is always going to be a thing. There was a bunch of rain there today. Guys were out practicing in the rain today, which might soften the golf course on that first day. The weather's supposed to be nice, but I just don't think, like I said, I just don't think that there's going to be as many complaints in '04, and I think that's going to be the biggest difference. Is guys are going to be more happy with the setup. I haven't heard one negative thing thus far this week. Like I said, guys like Mickelson and Rory McIlroy and, guys that you usually hear complain about some of these things are really, really pleased with what's happening over there. So I just think we're in for a really fun week.
Luke, do you think that this is probably going to be the most challenging course for these golfers this week for this year?
I think a lot of that is going to depend on the weather, and just how the wind plays. Because when a golf course is almost 7,500 yards long, Shinnecock Hill stretches to about 7,440 when the tees are all the way back. It's obviously not going to play like that every day, but it is going to play long. And even with the link style course, you don't have your somewhat normal U.S. Open setup with tree line fairways and all that, but you're on a links course, you're still going to have the U.S. Open type rough, and it's going to be thick. I mean, especially if some of that moisture sits overnight tonight, especially those guys in the morning are going to have a tough time with some of that. And so I think every course is challenging in different ways. The U.S. Open and the USGA, they certainly like to be near the top of the list when it comes to toughness. Like I said, I mean, only 2 guys finished under par there 14 years ago. So, yeah, I'd say probably that it might be the toughest place they play.
Tiger recently spoke to the fact that back when he was coming up in the late 90s, early 2000s, Luke, there was a particular way in which you could approach a U.S. Open golf course. He recently has said that, things have changed. Not like that anymore. The USGA obviously has had a big part in that. You just referenced them a moment ago. The weeds are very thick. That's traditional for a U.S. Open type course, as you mentioned. But really the question is if it's changed so much in that sense of how they've laid out these courses for these U.S. Open championships, whose game is best equipped to make it through this entire week, to maybe shoot a good red score figure?
It's going to be a combination of different things. Like I said, I mean, there's so many different factors that come into just golf in general. But, I mean, when you're talking about a course like this, I mean, length, obviously at 7,500 yards, length is going to be a thing, but just about everyone out there is long these days. I mean, you still got guys like Zach Johnson and guys like that still can't crush the ball. But your DJs, your Tigers, your Fowlers and Koepkas and Rorys and things like that. I mean, they're going to hit the ball a long way down. So even if they do get in the rough, a lot of those guys are strong enough to get it out. But if they do get buried in there, I mean, accuracy is going to be a thing. You take a guy like Henrik Stenson, who leads PGA Tour in driving accuracy. Guy like Ian Poulter, he's top 25 in that category. So, I mean, and when you're talking length style, I mean, you obviously think of some of the European guys that are going to be playing this week. Your Stensons, your Poulters, Sergio, John Rahm, Justin Rose. A guy I really like this week is Tommy Fleetwood, who kind of broke through a little bit in last year's U.S. Open, showing people here in the States, who he is and what he's about. And then you've got the putting, depending on what the greens are going to be with Day and Jordan Spieth and Mickelson, and like a guy like Webb Simpson, he's top 5 in strokes gained and putting. So, I mean, it's going to be... That's what's great about U.S. Open golf. I mean, they tried not to tailor it to one specific type of player. You want to have a complete type of game, and you're going to have to be sharp for 4 days. It's a long journey. It's a hard journey, and watching these guys battle it out on these U.S. Open courses is always fun to watch.
What's interesting to me, Luke, is that the short game is really key, and especially in the U.S. Open. And knowing that the green is fast, and how do these guys take that approach of putting the ball in that short game? Like that's very key in the U.S. Open.
Say that again, Brad. I'm sorry.
No, I was asking how the short game is key in the U.S. Open, and how do these guys go by the approach of going there, knowing that the greens are fast this year?
Yeah, it's just, I mean, you're going to have to be, I mean, touch is going to be a thing. I mean, even with the power game these days, I mean, when you're around these greens and you're talking about getting up and down and all that, I mean, it's, a lot of these guys are so good in that regard. I mean, little flop shots, little pitches, little bump and runs and things like that, and just depending on how these things are playing anyway, I mean, it is going to be a lot of runouts because you're going to want to hit it short and just let the ball try and funnel it to the hole. Or no, there's just going to be so many different things that go into winning this thing, and there's so much talent in the game right now. I mean, from young guys to even some of the older players. I mean, you've got Mickelson out here he'll turn 48 on Saturday, and I still think that he may have a shot this week.
Speaking of Phil, who's got more pressure on him this week, Mickelson or Tiger?
Oh, that's a fun one. I think it's still Tiger, just because it's Tiger. And just coming back to this tournament for the first time in 3 years, and just everybody just waiting and waiting and waiting for that win. I mean, he's knocked on the door a few times. He hasn't been able to put just an entire tournament together. He's put together a stretch a couple days or weekends. I mean, you look at the players or, that Friday, Saturday run at the Memorial a couple weeks ago. And honestly, I think we as golf fans got spoiled watching Tiger Woods in his prime. I think it, anytime he teed up, we expected him to win, and that's just not fair to anybody. And so I think that pressure is always going to be there for him to win, and I think a lot of that he puts on himself just because of who he is and how he's always put that pressure on himself. He's a little more relaxed these days, but anytime he tees it up, he's still, I think, expecting to compete and wanting to be near the top of the leaderboard, not just ho-humming it for a T12. Whereas Phil, like I said, Phil's going to be 48, but I mean, there is some pressure there. I mean, he has, he's the biggest bridesmaid in U.S. Open history. He's finished runner-up in this tournament 6 times.
Does he need to win this event, though, Luke? Does he need to win this U.S. Open at some point before his career ends to kind of validate him as far as winning in every single major, or does it not matter to him at this point? Is his record already kind of sealed?
So. I mean, he's still a competitor, and and if you tee it up, you're going to have to win. I mean, that's just part of being a competitor. I don't think he has to win to validate his status as one of the all-time greats. I mean, the guy's got 40 plus, PGA Tour victories, 5 majors, 3 Masters, and yes, this is the one that puts him short of the career Grand Slam and the one he always said that he wanted to win. I think, as he gets older, I think this is going to be his best chance because he knows this golf course. I mean, he and Tiger, fun stat for the listeners, he and Tiger are just 2 of 18 players in this 156-player field that have actually played a competitive round at Shinnecock Hills. That's how long it's been, and that's how young the game is right now. And he has had some success here. He played, way back early in his career and did well, and then, like I said, that second place finish back in 2004, where he had a strong chance to win on that Sunday. Retief Goosen just put it out of his mind. Retief Goosen had 11 one-putts on that Sunday, and Phil had a few 3-putts, which cost him the tournament. But that's Phil Mickelson golf. Go big or go home. But I don't think he needs to win. And just with being Tiger Woods, I think the answer still is Tiger.
One name I haven't heard about in a while is Bubba Watson. How does he fare in all this? I mean, he was a top guy.
Bubba. Bubba had a couple off years there, but I mean, he came back. He's got a couple wins this year, and had been playing well. His length is going to be. I don't think he's going to putt well enough. He might sneak in the top 25. I don't see him being near the top of the leaderboard too much this week. Of course, watch him go out. He'll shoot 64 tomorrow and just make me look like a jerk.
Hey, it wouldn't be the first time that happens to anybody, right?
Right.
What's going to be
the luxuries of being a sports writer? We never look like jerks, right?
So true. Once again, Luke Norris joining us here on Behind the Mic from Fansided. What's going to be the winning score this week? Are we going to see more of the scores we saw in 2004, where maybe -2, -3 gets it done, or do these guys really light it up, and do we see more of like -10, -10 come out on top? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the USGA does not like people going out like last year at Erin Hills. They do not like guys going out and shooting 16 under. They don't like that, and I think they've set up the course this week to avoid that from happening. If the wind stays down, I was looking at the weather report earlier today, and like initially early in the week they were calling for 20 to 25 miles per hour, but it's kind of gone down a little bit to that 12 to 16 mile an hour range, which is going to keep more balls in play. I like 8 at the moment. I mean, just with things the way they are and the talent that's in this field, I like 8 for a certain guy, and I think 8 under is going to get it done.
Does that benefit a guy like Tiger, the way he's been playing recently? Can he get to that mark in this type of tournament?
I think Tiger needs to get off to a better start. That's been one of the problems with Tiger in this most recent comeback. It's taken him a while to get warmed up, where it takes him until Saturday, take the players. He makes the cut on the number, then goes out Saturday, shoots 65, and follows it up with 69, is 10 under on the weekend. And climbs back into 11th or 12th that week. If he can get under par at least on that first day, even if it's just 1 or 2 under, I think that puts him in a good position to start, because the conditions are going to get tougher on the weekend. Hopefully they don't double cut the greens again, so we don't get that debacle like the Sunday back in 2004. But I think if he can get off to a good start and just keep himself within a few shots of the lead, I think that's going to help his confidence and just kind of give him some momentum. And honestly, he's got a fun group to play with, to feed off of. He's teeing off with Dustin Johnson and Justin Thomas, so that's just going to be fun all the way around. Anyway, I think those guys can feed off of each other and maybe get some low numbers going those first 2 days.
Yeah,
and try and survive on the weekend. That's kind of what U.S. Open, protocol is. Just get going and then try and survive.
Yeah, I think this is going to be. I think honestly, I thought the Masters was probably going to be Tiger Woods' biggest challenge, but now you're looking at the U.S. Open, and he's teeing off with Dustin Johnson. I mean, he has really had to. Dustin Johnson's been on a roll, so this is.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So this. Honestly, I think he has to, as long as he stays close to those guys, I think he'll be okay. But the biggest challenge, I think, for him is what I've noticed is his short game this year. I mean, he's been teeing off and actually getting pretty accurate on the green, but what you're even saying about the green is very fast this week, I think that's going to be his biggest challenge is his short game.
Definitely. The putting has been an issue. Because his accuracy at the tee is a little wayward. But he's been recovering somewhat well. But his, the ball striking has been there. I'm liking his iron game a lot. The putting has been the problem. At the Memorial, he had 5 3-putts in that tournament, and that's not Tiger Woods golf that we're used to seeing. If you go back and look at the history, of this U.S. Open, the guy that essentially just doesn't have 3 putts is going to win the golf tournament, at least lower than average. Brooks Koepka only had 1 last year. And so those putts, that Tiger was making even earlier this year, those 8 to 10 footers to save par, he hasn't been making recently, and that just kills so many strokes, and that's what can ruin the player's confidence going into the next hole, next round. And so I think making those 6 to 7 footers to save par are going to be really key for him.
A guy a lot of people aren't talking about is Ricky Fowler. Finished second at the Masters. He's been getting real close recently, Luke. Is this the week? Is this a tournament that maybe he can push through and maybe come out on top?
Maybe, yes. The guy's got so much talent, and it's unreal that he doesn't have a major by now. Like I said, it's 8 top 5s in major tournaments. There was a couple years ago, he was top 10 in all of them, top 5. Like you said, second place at the Masters. He's always right there. I think his game does set up for this. I don't know if this is the week. I'm actually going this week with Rory McIlroy, but I think Fowler is going to be right there, and I wouldn't be sad to see him prove me wrong.
We shall see. That's why they tee it up, right? Like you said there, Tiger, he tees off tomorrow, 10:47 local time here in Los Angeles, 1:47 out there in New York on the East Coast. All eyes will be on him, obviously, and Phil as well, and the field. So we'll see. Recently, it's been taking the field has been kind of the safe bet, but we'll see. This is one of those tournaments that I really feel that Tiger could break through. He can kind of put everything together at this point, so we'll see. Luke Norris joining us here once again from Fansided. Check him out at the Luke Norris on Twitter. Luke, we appreciate it, man. It's been a pleasure. Enjoy the tournament this weekend.
All right, been my pleasure, Brad. Appreciate you having me on.
Anytime. There he goes once again. Luke Norris joining us from Fansided, fansided.com. Does a great job for them covering all their golf. Covered really the gamut there with everything with this U.S. Open, what's to come this week. The biggest thing that I've seen so far, Keith, is the putting and how it's going to be crazy fast.
Yeah.
That's really going to be a huge test of these guys, especially for Tiger, because obviously he's been inconsistent with it, like we just mentioned there before. Can he put it together with that? If you think back through all of his majors won, especially his last one in 08 in Torrey Pines, he putted really well.
Yeah.
So he'll need that this week.
Yeah, he definitely is. Definitely is going to need that. On the flip side, what's great is, look, it can go either way with him. You starting off with Dustin Johnson, and, you're starting off with these guys early. You're in a good position, but if you can stay with them, then that's great. If you can ride it all the way out, then you'll be fine. But, my thing is, and my biggest concern with Tiger is, I don't think it's not just starting slow. It's just he's been hitting the ball well. It's just the short game has really he's been struggling with. And he's even mentioned it in a couple of interviews that, he's just trying to get his timing off in terms of how to hit the ball. Sometimes he hits it, he taps it and it's just short, or he hits it and it goes long. And I think you have to be really on your game if the green is fast, especially in the U.S. Open. So, the good thing is, look, he's teeing off with Dustin Johnson and these other guys that are at the top, and hopefully he can stay with him. And within, at least for the next 2 days or so, and just we'll see. It's going to be a long, grueling match, like Luke said, but I'm anticipating a good fight.
I am too. Dustin Johnson, number one golfer in the world at this point. You almost feel like he hasn't even gotten his due, Dustin Johnson, at this point in time. And I don't know if he'll get it this week either. Like a lot of these guys living in the shadow of Tiger, Phil Mickelson for that matter as well sometimes. You just feel like maybe Dustin Johnson can break out this week, because I don't know if he's really had that moment of pure dominance yet.
Yeah.
If we talk about him for a second, as number one in the world, he's done a good job, obviously, to get to number one, and he's had wins, and he's been impressive, but I don't know if he's had that dominant moment yet.
Yeah, well,
none of these guys really have.
Honestly, I think the pressure's on Dustin than anybody. I don't think it's on Tiger. I don't think it's because I think a lot of these guys don't want to partner because they know how lethal Tiger is. Historically, they know how he is, how he plays, and it's just a matter of time before, like the old saying goes, when you poke the bear, eventually it's going to bite.
And there's a lot of people who still think that Tiger will never win a major again either, so that goes to your point that maybe there's not a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah, so I think what he does is what he always says in interviews is he just wants to par. And if he can par throughout the whole entire course, and he's fine with that. And I think why he does it, because psychologically what he's thinking is in that last day, I'll go for it all and try to stay under. So
and see, that's why I've been saying recently, I think this type of tournament, the U.S. Open, sets up really great for him because of just that right there.
Yeah.
Unless it's crazy this week, unless it is like a 15, 16 under par gets it done, I don't think we're going to see that. Though I think this course is already proving in the practice rounds it's going to be tough to get in any kind of red figures to begin with, let alone double figures at minus 10 or lower. So I don't know. I think it's more likely to see 5 under par, 4 under par, which I think is in Tiger's territory. Like you said, just par every hole as best you can. At least play it more so on the defensive.
Yeah.
Don't go for the jugular on offense, sort of say. And if he does that, like you said, even par, that could be enough to get it done. Look, as Luke mentioned back in 04, if this week's going to be any indication of how that went, only 2 players finished under par.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
So, yeah, it is definitely going to be a challenge for all these guys. Probably the most difficult one we're going to see all year, like we said.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's got to be. It absolutely has to be. It's interesting, actually. Shinnecock they consider themselves to be the oldest golf course in the U.S. They consider themselves to be the oldest one. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know can't exactly verify that, but that's what they claim to be. And, not only are they the oldest, but they're trying to put up the toughest course conditions possible. So, as we mentioned there with Luke, the USGA obviously has changed things up, the United States Golf Association, in previous years. I can say this though, just by watching some of the practice rounds and highlights, you don't want to miss left and right into the weeds.
No.
If you drop, similar to dropping the golf ball like we saw on social media on the green and it rolls off, if your golf ball lands in the weeds, you can't even see it.
Exactly.
You actually have to dig down and move the grass blades back in order to see it hit your golf ball. So you want to avoid all that. That's the thing, and that goes back to your point. Just playing par golf as best you can and avoiding big mistakes. You can't miss long. I think that's the big thing with Tiger as well. He can't miss long this week with his approach shots.
No,
because it's going to be killer trying to chip those down then.
Yep.
So that's going to be really key. If his approach shots are on, he'll be there this week.
Yeah,
he'll be there.
I totally agree with you. I think he'll be there if his pro shots are on. But if it's not, I mean, this thing can get away from you quickly, and that's the thing about this course and things like if these guys don't play it the right way, they can find themselves in a deep hole and hard to dig out. 4 days is a long time.
Just getting started here on Behind the Mic tonight. A little golf there to get you going. U.S. Open, a preview for this weekend's tournament from Shinnecock there on Long Island. Luke Norris joining us from fansided.com. Once again, follow him on Twitter at the Luke Norris. Still to come tonight, we're going to dive into the Triple G Canelo Alvarez rematch. Breaking news from about an hour ago or so. It's on. It's going to take place on September 15th, just after Labor Day. Dodgers, we'll talk about the boys in blue. Right now they're up 2-0 over Texas as they wrap up a quick 2-game set from Chavez Ravine. We'll talk about USC alum Sam Darnold and how he's turning heads in the Big Apple. That and more tonight here on Behind the Mic, live from Grunions Sports Bar and Grill.
Every 17 minutes, Make-A-Wish makes the impossible possible. They tame dragons. They bring Saturn to Earth. They help superheroes save entire cities. They even make unicorns fly. All to give children the strength they need to fight their critical illnesses. Every wish takes muscle. Help us make sure every wish comes true. Join us at wish.org.
Battles aren't won solely on the field.
Yeah, that was good. He got some good stuff there.
Yeah, you did.
Sorry, I wish I could have really been able to introduce you because he was confused, obviously. We're going back and forth. Yeah, ideally.
I wasn't worried about it.
Yeah.
Of doubt.
But I thought he was there originally, but he's not. He's not actually.
Yeah, I thought he was there.
Yeah.
Promises to oneself. Promises to one's community. Promises
I wonder if I can get her
to one's country.
Let me see if I can get. Wait, I'm gonna see if I can get her on.
In the heart of every Marine, you'll find a promise.
Jeanette Salzar. Let me see if I can get this. The IBF rep on for Jeanette.
Okay. I don't know if he's really had that moment of pure dominance yet.
Yeah.
If we talk about him for a second as number one in the world, he's done a good job, obviously, to get to number one, and he's had wins, and he's been impressive, but I don't know if he's had that dominant moment yet.
Oh, yeah, well,
none of these guys really have.
Honestly, I think the pressure is on Dustin and everybody. I don't think it's on Tiger. I don't think it's because I think a lot of these guys don't want to partner because they know how lethal Tiger is. It's still went down and stuff. I know there was agreement that was made for him in order to fight this upcoming rematch that they're having. So I wanted to try to see if you can explain to us exactly.
To your point that maybe there's not a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah, so I think if you give me a call back, I really appreciate it. My name is 310-415-1085. Thank you.
By the way, it's looking good online with the stream.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's a big lag time behind, but it's looking good overall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. The audio sounds really good, too.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's how it would be in the studio. I guess how you get the studio.
Exactly. Probably could use a little lighting at some point.
Yeah, you just stick a camera light on top.
Yeah, I've got one. But,
you do?
I do have one.
You stick it on fast, or are you on break?
Not with me.
Oh.
Not with me, yeah. But I can bring it.
She calls back, man. I was trying to get Triple G's people on. I wonder if Babcock can get them on for me, man. Come on, Babs, pick up the phone.
They consider themselves to be the oldest one. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know can't exactly verify that, but that's what they claim to be. And, I mean, not only are they the oldest, but they're trying to put up the toughest course conditions possible. So, as we mentioned there with Luke, the USGA obviously has changed things up. The United States Golf Association.
His hands on a full time machine because he is going to come back here and knock some sense into you.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified...
Ball, like we saw on social media, on the green and it rolls off. If your golf ball lands in the weeds, you can't even see it.
Exactly.
You actually have to dig down and move the grass blades back in order to see it hit your golf ball. So you want to avoid all that. That's the thing, and that goes back to your point. Just playing par golf as best you can and avoiding big mistakes. You can't miss long. I think that's the big thing with Tiger as well. He can't miss long this week with his approach shots.
No.
Because it's going to be killer trying to chip those down there.
Yep.
So that's going to be really key. If his approach shots are on, he'll be there this week.
Yeah.
He'll be there.
Being a kid should be about
sounds
using your
good.
imagination,
It does, doesn't it?
learning, and having fun.
But
these children
if it's
shouldn't
not,
have to miss out
I mean,
on simply being a kid
this thing
because they're
can get
hungry.
away from you quickly,
To find
and
out
that's
how
the
you
thing
can
about
help end childhood
this
hunger in your
course and things like Boxcast. How much these guys don't play it the right way?
Something like that.
They can
For
find
months,
themselves
yeah.
in the deep
It's
hole
not too
and hard
bad.
to dig
Not
out.
too bad.
4 days is a long time.
Just getting started here on Behind the Mic tonight. A little
live
golf
stream.
there to get you
It's good
going.
quality.
U.S. Open,
It is
a
good, yeah.
preview for this weekend's tournament from Shinnecock there on Long Island. Luke Norris joining us from fansided.com. Once again, follow him on Twitter at the Luke Norris. Still to come tonight, we're going to dive into the Triple G Canelo Alvarez rematch. Breaking news from about an hour ago or so. It's on. It's going to take place on September 15th, just after Labor Day. Dodgers, we'll talk about the boys in blue right now. They're up 2-0 over Texas as they wrap up a quick 2-game set from Chavez Ravine. We'll talk about USC alum Sam Darnold and how he's turning heads in the Big Apple. That and more tonight here on Behind the Mic, live from Grunions Sports Bar and Grill.
Every 17 minutes, make a wish makes the impossible possible. They tame dragons. They bring Saturn to Earth. They help superheroes save entire cities. They even make unicorns fly.
Oh, let me see if I can get Oscar. I tried though already once.
Yeah.
Let me try again.
Okay.
Battles aren't won solely on the field.
Yeah, that was good. He got some good stuff there.
Yeah, you did.
Sorry, I wish I could have really been...
Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Join us at findwwp.org.
You're listening to Behind the Mic with Greg Dalius.
Yeah, no.
Welcome back behind the mic. We're here live from Grunions Sports Bar and Grill, Manhattan Beach, just off of Sepulveda Boulevard. Brad and Keith hanging out. Talked a little golf before the break. Luke Norris joined us from Fansided. Got his biggest storyline thoughts heading into this U.S. Open Championship this weekend. Talked about Phil, Tiger, the field, a little Bubba Watson as well. You brought him up, Keith. We haven't really heard a lot from Bubba recently.
No
He's
Bubba.
He's a guy that a fan favorite, I think.
Exactly.
He's definitely become somewhat of a fan favorite, maybe a little bit of like a folk hero type of guy.
Yep.
Everyone seems to enjoy him when he's playing well, and just his company in general there on the tour. So we'll see if he can make some noise. I mentioned Ricky Fowler. I feel his game is close. If not this week, he's really close to putting it all together and making a serious charge. He finished second at the Masters, like I said, so maybe this is the week he's able to push through. Let's talk about some of the breaking news now and switch gears to boxing. Triple G, Alvarez, the rematch is on, Keith.
Yes, it is.
They got it together.
They got it together.
Both sides, September 15th. You like that?
I like it.
Yeah.
I kind of already knew that was going to happen September 15th. I mean, it's either Cinco de Mayo or September 15th. There's the fight week. So, it's going to make a lot of money. It's going to generate a lot of money. Triple G and Canelo, as we know. Last time they fought, it was a draw. I believe Triple G won, but I'm not going to go there. And then you go back and then the rematch happened. I mean, they were supposed to rematch before in Cinco de Mayo, and then you had, Canelo test for PED, positive for PED, and so now, after all the promotion, all the promoters that have their hands in it. It was said that Triple G wanted 50-50 of the revenue, and that's what was the holdup, and that was just way too much. So I'm sure they came to a medium, whatever, because now the fight's on.
Exactly.
So we'll see what happens. Which I don't understand why is Triple G's people going to De La Hoya's people to ask for, it should. 50-50. I mean, honestly, I think Triple G won. I think Triple G is the headliner. He's the guy who's supposed to, the champion. But I believe Canelo is, and it's a Golden Boy promotion fight. So I guess that's why they had it. They went that way. But that's the thing about fighting and these big fights like this. It's so much. It's so much negotiating and things going down. But now it's happening. Look, boxing is now like it's back.
Yeah.
But let's just call it what it is. You got Canelo, you got great fights coming up. You got Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. I think that deal is almost finished. I know Deontay Wilder's agreed to fight in the UK against Anthony Joshua, so that's going to be a huge fight. And they're going to have to set a rematch up for that, because if he's going to the UK to go fight him, then Anthony Joshua has to definitely come back into the States to fight Deontay Wilder. And now you got the rematch that everybody been wanting to see since Cinco de Mayo, was Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin. So now we got it, and it's on, man. Get your popcorn ready, as Terrell Owens says.
I love it. That one never gets old, right? Yeah. That never gets old, that line. You're right. It's funny. We talked about this with Carl Moretti last week when he called into Behind the Mic. Great matches coming up here, like you alluded to. In the coming weeks, coming months, it's all going to lead up to this rematch in September, actually. Exactly. So there's a lot of great boxing to check out this summer that leads up to this, like I said. Really, I think you can make the case that Canelo is the guy who benefits the most from this coming together, the rematch. I mean, he tests positive for the banned substance. It looks like the whole thing is going to fall through. But in the end, he still gets the match, and he still might be able to ultimately, reap the rewards of winning this and getting the full spoils. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So really, I think this works out in his favor the most. I think the pressure is on Triple G.
You know what? I'll say this. I don't think it's really the pressure's on Triple G, because, I think the pressure's more on Canelo. Let me tell you why. It was his fault that the fight was canceled the first time, PED. If he doesn't perform well, this time around, he is Golden Boy's promotions guy. He's the face of Golden Boy Promotions, Alvarez Canelo. He don't beat Triple G, then what's next for Golden Boy? That hurts Golden Boy Promotions tremendously. So he's their highest paid guy for Golden Boy Promotions. Canelo coming in. He's going to be a stand-up. These guys, both of these guys, what you got to remember is they like to stay in the center of the ring, and they just throw blows.
Yeah.
This is an old-fashioned fight right here. This is like a Buster Douglas, Mike Tyson fight. Like, that's what I can really compare it to. Because,
people are going to like that.
Because you got Gennady Golovkin, who everybody thought he didn't have a tough chin. Well, you saw that shot that he got from Canelo last time, and he didn't fall down. And Canelo was shocked. He was surprised. And he just kept coming forward, Gennady Golovkin. I think Gennady Golovkin is, how you have, like, boxers, they can always talk a good game.
Of course.
But reality is when they get in that ring, sometimes they shred up and they shiver up and they're like, oh, I really can't beat this guy. Gennady Golovkin feels he can beat him and beat him easy. And he has that much confidence. And when he took that one shot, and I thought he was going down and just kept coming forward, that right then showed me that he knows he can beat Canelo Alvarez. I don't think Canelo Alvarez is gonna beat Gennady. I think this will be, if it goes down to it this time. If it goes to a decision, it can't be a draw. Somebody's gonna have to win. There has to be a winner.
I would say so at this point, after going through all this and getting these two matched up. You would think so. There has to be somebody.
But there's going to be some knockdowns in this fight, for sure.
Who do you like initially here? Initial thoughts?
Initial style, I'm going with Triple G.
Yeah.
I remember going with Canelo the first time, but I got to go with Triple G because I just didn't know he had a chin like that. And on top of that, look, the thing about Canelo is, can Canelo go a full 12 rounds? The knock on Canelo is his conditioning. You got to remember, even though he fought Floyd back in the day, he fought Floyd a couple years ago. His whole thing was stamina. He was just picking him apart. He was beating the hell out of Canelo. And I was like, wow. Even though Canelo was younger then, I just never seen a fighter just outfloss him like that. And so Triple G, when he fought Triple G the first time, I even felt like he had a lot of fatigue and he was getting a little tired because the shots, his hands were coming down, and Gennady was just peppering him right on the chin, right in the head. But, I'm going to say this. If Canelo wins, it's going to be from a body shot. If Triple G wins, it's going to be from he's going to knock him out on his chin. And Triple G is just, I've seen just the fights he's had, and he just wrecks guys. I mean, his last fight he had, he just took this guy apart. So I'm going with Triple G.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. Like I said, now it's almost better if people can wait to see this in September after Labor Day. Sometimes those fights that timing is more so worth the wait at that point. So it's going to be fun. It's crazy how they got this in right under their self-imposed deadline today of 12 p.m. Pacific time. I know. That's what I'm saying. Nothing like cutting it close to the last second to get it in. Absolutely. And to make everybody happy. So it kind of follows suit with just the theatrics there and plays with the drama, I guess. Maybe that's what they were going for with it. But either way, they get it going. And, I'm curious, CEO Oscar De La Hoya, is he, what is really his vision as far as with these different events? Is this what he's always envisioned putting together, these type of fights?
He wants the big money fights. He believes Golden Boy Promotions is, as Floyd Mayweather says, the past, the present, and the future.
Yeah.
Of boxing.
Big three.
And I think what it is that he wants to put on the big events. Golden Boy Promotions in competition with TMT Promotions and Top Rank. And Top Rank used to be the cream of the crop, and Golden Boy's come in and they've done some things. But Golden Boy hasn't had the fighters, the attractive fighters, except for really Canelo Alvarez, I think. And it's really been all about the Money Team Promotions and Top Rank. Top Rank always put on a good event. I'm not saying that Golden Boy doesn't. They do. But Golden Boy is trying to be the cream of the crop. They want to pick on the big events. And here, they got a mega fight right here. I mean, this is the one everyone's going to want to see. I don't think and it's on I believe that's Mexican Independence Day, September 15th.
Yes, I believe so.
So that is, that's why they put it on as a Cinco de Mayo or September 15th. So it's going to be huge. Those are the only days Floyd Mayweather used to fight on. And
That's right.
So these are huge events. In Vegas, it will be rocking, man. It's going to be so much fun. So I advise people, if they're going to see this fight, man, this fight is like when it came up to the Mayweather Pacquiao fight.
Yeah.
The hype was coming up to it, man. You should have saw. I was there, man. I was there when that fight happened the first week, and man, just the amount of people in the atmosphere, just being around that was incredible. Like, that was more than like a McGregor fight.
Yeah.
Better than a McGregor fight. That Pacquiao Mayweather.
Because you were both.
Yes.
Well, that one was really years in the making.
Yeah.
People wanted that 5 years prior, maybe even more so than that.
Exactly.
And it took them a while to get it together. Whereas I guess more so Mayweather McGregor, it was put together, but fans weren't waiting for it for a long time.
They weren't. And the event that was going on, that was pretty cool. The whole how they juiced it up and everything like that. But this fight right here, you're going to see, this is going to be a brawl. And these guys both stand up in the middle of the ring. They don't they do old-fashioned boxing. It's going to be just hard hitting, and somebody's going to get knocked out.
Yeah. And you think Triple G leads the way?
G wins it.
Yeah.
Triple G wins it. Well, I thought he won last fight. I thought he won it last fight. I thought he was he outclassed Canelo. And they didn't give it to him. They called it a draw. But I knew it was going to be a draw because I said they're going to do a rematch because that was that good of a fight. They're going to do a rematch, and that's what it is, and now they're going to come out with a winner.
It's going to be fun. Can't wait for it. September 15th. They're going to do it MGM?
MGM.
MGM?
Sure.
Yeah.
No. I think it's going to T-Mobile Center.
T-Mobile Arena?
T-Mobile, yes.
Okay.
Fight set to happen at T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. So
there you go. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Looking forward to it. By the way, tonight, I got to add that we're doing a little video streaming now. We're really up in the game here at Behind the Mic across all platforms, really. Facebook right now, YouTube Live, Periscope as well. Really covering the gamut right now here on Behind the Mic. So, really, there's no excuse not to catch us on one platform or another at this point.
Absolutely not. Make sure you go and subscribe to the YouTube.
Do the subscribe there.
Subscribe, hit a like. We appreciate our fans and people that support us, and we want to continue to give you good content. So now you got a chance to see what we look like. Hello.
Exactly. So having a great time here at Grunions. There is a good crowd on hand tonight as well. Good to see it. Coming off of the fact no more basketball, no more hockey. Student fans are out and about.
It's the perfect time to listen to Behind the Mic, because we never have a dead period. There's always something that's going on and we're going to talk about it. So, this is a great time right now for sports, and it's a break for basketball, the main sport. But you still got some good baseball going on.
Yes,
you got the WNBA going on. Let's not knock you women out there who love to watch the WNBA. Some great matchups there, and some great boxing. And there's other stuff that's coming up, so, stay tuned.
And starting tomorrow, the FIFA World Cup from Russia.
Oh, yeah.
That gets underway. The big news today here at home in the U.S. was kind of unexpected. They announced the host site for the 2026 World Cup is going to be in North America. It was awarded officially to the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. It's going to probably be decided next year when they all gather again for their FIFA Congress meeting, whatever they call it. How it's official. Are they going to split the time? Are they going to have half the games maybe in Mexico? Or, do they do like quarter of the games? And however they're going to split that up, they're going to determine that probably a year from now. Or maybe the U.S. just outright host it. There's a lot of factors here, though, because not only those points, but also does the U.S. need to qualify officially in 2026? Now, we hope so. We hope they're back there in 2022, first off, in Qatar. But do they officially need to qualify in order to host in 2026? That's very interesting. There's a lot of different things here to chew on. That was the big news. Really exciting, for big soccer fans like Alexi Lawless. an all-time soccer great here in the U.S. A lot of other former players reacting to it, Landon Donovan, to mention a few. So that was good news today. But again, it doesn't help the fact that they're not there here in 2018. They won't be partaking. This is tough. I mean, last week we threw it out there. Since the U.S. is not participating, who do you go for? Do you root for like a Brazil? I think what you mentioned, Keith. That's who you're pulling for. Do you root for maybe one of the neighboring countries, such as Canada or Mexico? Spain, you know what I mean? Do you root for certain players, such as Messi? I think those are the questions that everyone's kind of asking themselves right now. It does, and I guess the best way to look at it is, at least this is how I look at it, I'll watch for the players, the individual players. I don't know if I'm really going to latch on to a certain team, maybe. It depends on the different storylines, and sometimes they put together those great montages of teams that they rallied around something in their personal lives or maybe extended family. You know what I mean? Maybe we'll see one of those. Maybe something like that catches my eye, and I decide to go with the team. But I think going into it, starting tomorrow, I think for the most part, I'm just going to root for players, maybe such as a Messi or Ronaldo. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But the superstars is what's drawing me to the World Cup.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, the World Cup is always a great event that goes down. I mean, soccer is one of the most popular sports in the world. Let's just call it what it is. And then that's an international.
We forget that sometimes here in the U.S. because it's not the most popular here.
Yeah.
But just about, you're right, Keith, everywhere else in the world, it is.
It is. And so, to me, Brazil has always been the mecca of soccer. We're going to say football. And I think that, just me personally, I like the way they play. I like the style that they play. Even though Germany's tough. Germany's has always been tough. They're big and they're strong, and they've always competed. And so, but I'm going with Brazil, man. I think, I just think that they have a great team, and they're pretty good at what they do. And Ronaldinho, I just know he's going to do his thing, man. So I'm going to go with them.
Yeah, I like it. There's a lot of different things to watch here. We'll get a different perspective, no doubt, that the U.S. is not there, and see how everything plays out. But I always have thought this is kind of one of those perfect tournaments, the way they do it. It's kind of up there with March Madness in the sense of structure-wise. They do a good job with the round robin initially, then they go into the knockout portion after that. So from that standpoint, they have it lined up great. The first game tomorrow, by the way, is the home country, Russia, the representative host country. They'll take on Saudi Arabia, 8 a.m. tomorrow morning here in Los Angeles if you want to do a little coffee and soccer in the morning. So that gets us going tomorrow, and then a whole bunch of games coming up on Friday, and we'll see how it plays out. Like you said, though, Keith, Germany's a team to watch. Argentina, another tough team who puts it out there. France with a good soccer team. The thing that kills me, though, is do you see this headline about Spain, how they let go of the head coach a couple days ago? How do you let go of a head coach a couple days before you begin the biggest tournament in the sport? How do you do that?
I don't know, man.
That's unbelievable.
It's lethal. That's how it is in soccer, though. You just never know. And those are the type of things where they're like, it's not about the coaching, it's about the players.
Yes.
Those certain areas. But they forget, man, the coaching is key. It's key, and you need that going in. I just think that's really a bad move on Spain's part. You just don't do – to me, that's just a bonehead move. You don't do anything like that.
Head coach Julian Lopocci, he was let go just a couple days ago here, and you're right, Keith. It is a different type of way in which the sport is played, in which it is managed / coached internationally. And, again, we're just not fully in tune to it here as other countries are here in the United States. So another storyline just to watch here, obviously, how Spain does. Do they rally around the fact that they lost the head coach and now that they just rally around the players, like you said, how it is about the players, or is it more so they go in the opposite direction? Something else to watch as we get going with the World Cup. To call in tonight, by the way, 213-261-7491. 213-261-7491. So World Cup gets going tomorrow. Keith just kind of pointed out to me here, he kind of nudged me that there was a brawl going on over at Dodger Stadium.
Matt Kemp.
Yeah, 2-0. Dodgers on top. Something irked Kemp there. Yeah, you're right, Keith. I don't know what it was. I don't know what was said. He wasn't happy, though.
But he wasn't happy. I think what it looked like, and I mean, if you guys even watch it, he was running to home base. He was running down to home base, and the catcher caught the ball. He just bulldozed over him. I think the catcher still had the ball in his hand, and then the catcher gave him a nudge afterwards when they stood up, and then he just pushed and set Matt Kemp off, and now it was a brawl. So, that Texas Rangers and Dodgers game's getting a little chippy. So if you want to turn it, go ahead and watch it. Dodgers, we don't need no more injuries.
No,
we
how
don't need
true
no more
is that?
injuries.
Stop it with the injuries at this point. Way too many.
Exactly. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's going to be a tight game going into it right now, so we'll see.
We haven't seen a lot of brawls this year in Major League Baseball.
No.
I feel like we're kind of down on the ticker with that. In previous years at this point, maybe we had some more. I don't know. It feels like
the best one was
we've had
Batista.
more level heads.
Batista last year.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Batista, and I believe he was fighting a guy from the Astros?
Might have been Houston.
Houston? I would think so. I remember that. Was it last year? It was 2 years ago. No, it was 2 years ago.
Was it 2 years ago now?
Jose Batista.
Time flies by.
Yeah,
it's hard to keep track.
It was a funny one, though. It was tough. It was a brawl. It was they I remember this clear as day. They actually were throwing punches right in front of him. He got Batista got clocked. Real. It was brutal. So I remember that fight.
Yeah. Some of the ones that stick out, obviously, over the years. I don't think anything's really going to top Boston, New York.
Oh, no.
But with Pedro Martinez throwing down Don Zimmer, the bench coach for the Yankees in the early 2000s. Jason Varitek getting into it with Alex Rodriguez. You can. Roger Clemens throwing the bat. You name it. There's so many stick out.
What is it about baseball? It's like if one guy gets in a fight, the whole entire bullpen has to clear out and go out there.
I know, right?
They said something about that. It's just like
it's almost like it's somewhat of a mandate that you have to do it.
And if you don't do it, I think they need to change that rule. I understand it's the historical baseball, and baseball has too many fights, but I think you need to change that because what happens is other guys get on there and then they start fighting as well, and it's hard to break up this whole fight. I think it needs to be the guys that are on the field are probably the ones that need to rectify the whole breaking up, or the umpires have to do a better job of breaking up the fight to prevent injuries. And that's just my assumption on it. I think they should.
Yeah, I concur. We've seen I don't know if we've seen a lot of injuries with it over the years, but it does tend to happen.
Yeah.
And that's obviously unfortunate for teams, especially if you're competing for a divisional race, down the stretch especially, wild card berth, you name it, to have that happen and to get a guy injured or a guy suspended maybe, it's the last thing you want to see happen. You don't want to see it. So Dodgers play on right now, 2-0 over Texas as they wrap up that 2-game set against the Rangers at Chavez Ravine. Down in Anaheim, the Angels, they continue to play on the road, taking on the Seattle Mariners. Shohei Ohtani looks like he's going to be down, Keith, for a period of time here. There was a little concern and maybe fear, if we can use that word, earlier this week that he might need Tommy John surgery.
Ooh.
Now, they're dispelling those rumors, if you want to call it at this point, but something to keep an eye on. You got two of the top pitchers right now in baseball out here in Los Angeles with Ohtani, the way he's pitched in his rookie year. Kershaw, we talked about him last night with the Dodgers. Two guys who have potentially significant injuries, or more so, there's a lot more uncertainty around them. Mm-hmm. I think that's the biggest thing. It's almost like if it was more cut and dry, fans would be more at ease with it because they would know the timetable. But the fact that it's not, there's uncertainty with Ohtani's injury, which is somewhat of an oblique, and Kershaw with the triceps, there's just concern there because there's an unknown. Like I said last night, how long these guys could be out. Two guys who both the Angels and Tigers, both the Angels and the Dodgers, their respective teams, are going to need them big time, as we know here coming up on the All-Star break and then after the second half. And by the way, the Angels and the Dodgers will play each other the Freeway Series right before the All-Star break.
And you know what's scary about the Angels is that, with those guys out, They're 7.5 games back from Seattle right now, and they got a losing streak going. They got a 4-game losing streak going on right now. So it's really important for them to try to stay in that hunt. Now, don't get me wrong, Houston and Seattle are the cream of the crop. But if the Dodgers want to make the playoffs, they got to get up at least in that second seed, I believe.
Yeah.
So that's what they have to start doing. So hopefully, keep your fingers crossed. It is a long season. We don't know what can happen. Hopefully, those guys can get back and get better as soon as possible.
Yeah, I'm with you. Obviously, these are guys who have not only been a big fixture to their teams on the field this year, but let's face it, they brought the fans in, especially down with the Angels in Anaheim. That has really brought the fans in. We talked about how this is really a must-win playoff clinching type seasons for the Angels. So they've not only performed well on the field, but they've done well bringing fans and drawing ticket sales, getting guys out to the stadium as well. So that's what's going on right now with baseball. I want to dive into some football news before we go to another break. I want to talk about, let's start with Sam Darnold, actually, USC alum. Looking good with the Jets so far. Off-season OTAs with mandatory minicamp here as well. He's impressing a lot of people. Now, look, you can only go up with the Jets if you come in there and you don't turn the football over, Keith, and you do everything right in practice. You can really stand out from the crowd because that quarterback crop has not really been able to do anything extra special in recent years. So by him coming in and doing all the right things seemingly, it's not a surprise. He's a guy who, he has a terrific work ethic. I don't think anyone's questioned that. I don't think anyone's really questioned his ability to throw the football around the field and hit certain spots. Yeah. He can do it in practice. He can do it in pro days. He's been able to do it during games, too. Obviously, that's why he's gotten to this point into the NFL. It just remains to be seen if he can do it during live action. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, right? Let's just focus on the here and now and what he's doing in June in minicamp. And so far, so good. You have to like it. I know Jets fans are dying. I mean, dying, Keith. I know some of them, personally, they're just dying for that quarterback.
Yeah.
And they're just praying it's him.
They picked him from day one, like the Jets fans have been really promoting Sam Darnold since even when he was at USC and he was playing. And even though he had an okay season with USC this year, let's just face it, his season wasn't great. I'm going to say that. It wasn't okay. It wasn't great.
Should have came back.
Yeah, I believe he should have came back.
We think it would only benefited him.
Yeah, that's what I would think, But, moving forward, he's over here with the Jets. The Jets were 5-11 last year. Let's just, let's make that clear. And what they're going up against this year, look, if he starts week 1, that's great. I think there's some winnable games for him to be going. The first 3 games are winnable games for them. And that's a great, they're going to play the Lions, so we don't know how they're going to be this year with Matt Patricia as their new head coach. You got the Dolphins. The Dolphins are still trying to find their way with them leaving Jarvis Landry and, losing him. And then they lose Jay Ajayi, who went to the Super Bowl recently, who played with the Eagles. So, they're trying to find their way. And then you got the Browns, and, well, the Browns are the Browns.
Until otherwise.
And then after that, they run against the Jaguars, which is going to be tough. So, he's got 3 weeks. If they start him, he's got 3 weeks to really get himself in sync for that Jaguars game and starting the regular season. But, I don't know, man. I think they're impressed and they're excited right now. I'm not going to get on get on my feet and start dancing around because we know what Sam Darnold's capable of doing, and we know what he's not capable of doing. And one thing he has problems with doing is sitting in the pocket, being patient, and reading the defense. And I just think, look, he's done well what he's done so far with the Jets. But, man, the Jaguars' defense is lethal, and we know that. And when he starts to see some different type of schemes, how does he respond to that? And that's my thing. So, I'm not really that high. I was high on him in the beginning of the season at USC. I thought he can be a Heisman candidate person. So I just learned from my lesson. And I'm not going to be high.
In hindsight, we had unrealistic expectations.
Very much so. So I'm not going to get too high on him. He's in the AFC. and he's going to be, he's got to play with the Jags, he's got to play the Pats, he's got to play the Bills. There's some teams, the Steelers. He's got some teams they're going to go up against and be pretty tough. So I am not going to get my hands up and jolly and dance around. Sorry, Jets fans. You can call me a hater all you want. I don't care. I'm just telling you right now that don't get too excited just yet.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say? I mean, we followed him last year at USC. Again, he has these moments where he has spurts of greatness, and I don't want to take away, like I said, what he's doing right now in minicamp, and we'll see. We'll see how things shake out if he does start. I don't know. Christian Hackenberg is gone. He was with the Raiders. We talked about him last night. He's now not on any roster, so you take him off of that Jets quarterback group, and you're left with Josh McCown, Teddy Bridgewater, Bryce Petty, and then you have Sam Darnold. I still think that Josh McCown is the most likely candidate to win the starting job at this point. But if that is how it gets played out, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Sam start a couple weeks after into the season, especially if McCown really is not getting it done, and if they start 1-3, 0-4, something like that, I wouldn't be surprised to see them go to him. I don't know. Like, the thing is I don't know if it necessarily is a good thing or a bad thing if he starts right away. I don't know, because obviously you can look at it two ways. If he does start and he plays well, then he has really exceeded expectations. If he comes out and he stinks up the joint, well, maybe you've hurt his psyche a little bit.
Yeah.
So this is a really tough decision for Todd Bowles and the coaching staff what to do. Obviously, they're just getting initial looks. Let's see how he's looking in about a month and a half from now after training camp. Does he just as good as he goes into some of these off-season training activities? We'll have to see. It remains to be seen. But so far, so good, and you can't take that away from him. You mentioned some of those defenses, Keith, that he'll have to go up against in the AFC.
Yeah.
That is so true in itself. Obviously, we haven't even dived into that one a lot yet. But let's just take a look at who he's going to throw to, who he's going to rely on.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about Jermaine Kearse. Terrell Pryor is a receiver. Still with the Jets.
And let's don't forget about Mr. Robbie Anderson, who was arrested twice in 9 months, man. And he's not expected to be suspended.
So I'm saying this is not exactly
Come on.
the San Francisco 49ers in their heyday at wide receiver who they're putting out there. So I think that's going to make it even more challenging for whoever starts a quarterback for the Jets if it is Sam Darnold. There's no security blanket in that offense. Let's put it that way. I mean, literally, the veteran now that they have now is probably Powell in the backfield, who's been there for a couple years or so, quite some time. He's kind of considered a veteran there. So this is a team who, on offense, obviously, they got a long way to go, and defense as well. We'll see. There's a lot of unknowns, and that's interesting because they decided to retain Todd Bowles after last year. This is kind of like a make it or break it type year for him, no?
Oh, absolutely. He's got to win.
Yeah, he's got to win, but with this roster, I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. That's the thing. So there's a lot. There's going to be a lot of pressure on this team and a lot of different things. I mean, we'll have to see. It's going to be fun, though, to watch Sam.
It's going to be fun to watch. I'm contemplating bad on doing my fantasy this year. I don't know. I think I'm going to do a fantasy this year.
Might as well.
I took a year off.
Oh, you did?
I did. I took a year off. But
Now, why'd you take a year off? Too much?
I was a little pissed off. I had my league going on, and I was getting upset about people who was winning who didn't know anything about football or anything like that, and they just win. And I didn't like that. So I had to take a year off of that for a minute, but I'm coming back.
I like it. Well,
Everybody wants to join my fantasy. Comment below. Let's put it together.
A year off. Gain a new perspective.
Win some money.
Fresh ideas. Fresh everything, right?
Yep.
I kind of like it.
Yeah, man. It's going to be interesting this year. I'm getting back excited into football, I hope these Pats can really do something this year. We'll see. Des Bryant's still available. Hello?
Still got some talent there. Red zone target. He would
Yeah.
really help. I mean, really, really help.
Yeah, he would.
A team like New England. There's other teams who could benefit from him as well.
Julio Jones. With Atlanta, yes, with their situation right now.
With their situation with Julio Jones there, which we can touch on now. Actually, Julio is absent, as most people know, from Falcons minicamp at this point. However, Matt Ryan still expects him to be there come training camp next month in July, along with other people as well. I think so, too. He's just kind of playing game. To me, this is kind of the equivalent of Le'Veon Bell with the Steelers. Talking about different contract stuff. Yeah, I think he'll be there. Look, this is probably the best wide receiver in the NFL at this point. He wants to get paid bigger money by all accounts. I think he will. I think they'll eventually get to a good number that works for him and his family. But make no mistake about it, this guy should be paid as one of the top guys in the NFL. I mean, you go back, even the defeat in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, he still made some unbelievable catches.
Yeah.
And we saw that last year, too. Even though they somewhat took a step back, Atlanta, they didn't quite get all the way back to the Super Bowl. He still was a big fixture of them on offense and what they were able to do.
Yeah.
So he's a guy, obviously, you have to keep an eye on.
You definitely got to keep an eye on, but
They want to keep him happy. That's the big thing.
Yeah, the problem is keeping him happy. But my thing is this, is that they're going to, let's make no mistake about it, Atlanta's going to get the deal done, and Julio Jones is going to be their number one receiver.
Yes.
Make no mistake about that. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. However, I think because you got somebody like a Dez Bryant who wants a max deal, and he has not been getting no looks or anything. Nobody's really been interested in him right now. I think you can present because to someone that you can get something from him which is just like half. Like he maybe not get a max deal, but he can possibly get something comparable to a max deal, and you can sign somebody like Dez Bryant. Dez Bryant would be excellent that would be a very comparable person. You know, you had
For Atlanta, they'd be stacked.
Big receivers that they have already. You know?
Exactly.
You know, there's a lot of teams that can use him, but Atlanta right now, I think, man, Matt Ryan would love that. You have Muhammad Sanu in the slot, Julio Jones on the right, and then you got Dez Bryant on the left side. That is just.
That easily goes to the most intimidating offensive targets in the NFL.
I mean,
there's not many secondaries who would be able to keep them down.
No.
Really?
No.
If you think about it.
That's like a Golden State Warrior lineup.
Yes, it really is.
Like, you're not beating that. And this is the thing. Here's the thing. He also wants to stay in the NFC. So it's just like, look, I think it's something. For me personally, I hope someone will make a move on him soon. I hope the Pats will make him. Try to get him in the AFC. But with that said, I think that somebody's got to start thinking that those type of things is, look, some of these receivers out here that want all this big money, they want to get paid like these quarterbacks and things like that. You know, I understand. Julio Jones, Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham, probably the top 3 receivers in the league. You know,
yeah.
You pick your poison. Who's number one? You know, there's probably not going to be an argument at all between the 3 of them. However, the one who's probably went the furthest out of everybody with Antonio Brown's probably did he win a Super Bowl? Antonio Brown? Yes, I believe so.
Yeah,
he won his first year.
I believe so. This is his rookie year. They won.
His rookie year or the second year he won a Super Bowl. And then next you got Julio Jones, who's a proven winner. Odell Beckham's going to put fans in the stands. Hasn't really won anything, but he's a talented receiver. And then next to that, man, I mean, look, Dez Bryant's got to be in that conversation. So I think that somebody really does need to pick him up. And I think, why not Atlanta? If they having tough issues with that, I would immediately go and say, look, he's having issues with his contract. I don't know if we can sign the max deal or whatever the case may be. But just to have in my back pocket, I got Dez Bryant, I would do it.
I would too. You might as well. I think this is how it's going to go with him. I think people are going to wait. I don't
somebody
think
gets hurt.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to wait till someone gets hurt. No one's going to sign him before training camp. He doesn't want to go to training camp anyhow, probably. So I don't think he'll be signed until August. Because, I mean, yeah, like you said, I mean, eventually, there's no doubt, we see this every year, someone's going to go down on some team. They're going to need somebody probably in August. That's my prediction. And they'll go to him. they'll call him.
And they'll sign him for cheaper.
They will, exactly. They'll get him on the minimum, which I don't know why. I guess he's holding out for more of a higher payday.
Yeah.
At this point, I don't know.
I don't think he gets.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's over. I think those days are behind him now. Still a lot of talent, though. That's the thing. And I think people are overlooking that right now.
Yeah.
That's why he's sliding
They're looking
by.
at the age. They're looking at he didn't have a great season last year. But you got to remember
that
something,
team
man.
didn't have a great season.
Great season, and they doubled it. They doubled him everywhere he went. When you got someone like Julio Jones, Dez Bryant, he reminds me of Andre Johnson.
Yeah, similar build.
Similar build.
Yeah.
But, when he got older, Andre Johnson, then they stopped doubling Andre Johnson, and they went somewhere else. And he was more like a slot guy, getting short passes. Dez Bryant, and if you sit back and think about it, Julio Jones, Mohamed Sanu, Dez Bryant, and you're talking about 10 yards in the red zone. Who you're doubling? You can't double none of. If you double Julio, all they're gonna do is pop it over to Dez or Mohamed Sanu. You gonna leave those guys one-on-one? You can't. That's 6'6", 260 pounds.
Oh yeah. There's no way.
There's no way. So, I don't know. That would be lethal. I hope that somebody's really thinking that and just realize the value he can bring to the team. But also, if Julio Jones doesn't sign with doesn't agree, let's say he doesn't agree with the Atlanta Falcons, he moves on. Well, then look, you got somebody comparable to that. Maybe he's not as lethal, but Dez Bryant still could be a top 10 receiver in the league.
Definitely possible. By the way, it's 2-2. Texas has tied up the Dodgers as they play over there at Dodger Stadium. We'll keep tabs on that one. A final up in Seattle. Mariners knocked off the Angels today, 8-6. Just going on in baseball. We're going to step aside for another break. We'll come back on the other side, and I want to touch on a bit of a sad news point in Maryland with this Jordan McNair player, only 19 years old, football player, unfortunately passed away after sustaining some type of injury. It's still uncertain what exactly happened here, but after a workout recently, he was hospitalized and unfortunately passed away here. Again, only 19 years old. Some sad news out of Maryland there. We'll touch on that in addition to everything else that's going on as we continue here live from Grunions Sports Bar and Grill.
Every 17 minutes, Make-A-Wish makes the impossible possible. They tame dragon. They bring Saturn to Earth. They help superheroes save entire cities. They even make unicorns fly. All to give children the strength they need to fight their critical illness. Every wish takes muscle. Help us make sure every wish comes true. Join us at wish.org.
Battles aren't won solely on the field. That's a common misconception. Battles are won within. Over enemies of fear. Enemies
Was that
of
what you
doubt.
guys did this week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In that place where promises are kept. Promises to oneself. Promises to one's community. Promises to one's country.
I see that on.
In the heart of every Marine, you'll find a promise. A promise forever kept. A promise of battles won.
Everybody buckle up. Buckle up. Buckle up. Buckle up. Everybody buckle up.
A lot goes on in the car, but you're in control. So only move when you hear the click that says they're buckled in. Never give up until they buckle up. Learn more at safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup. A message from the National
All right, let me
Highway
see this
Traffic
thing about
Safety
Maryland.
Administration and the Ad Council.
Yeah.
This is Behind the Mic.
Maryland, I was looking at
Dalius.
football.
Yep.
Dave, what are you doing?
Just sending a gift to Dave 2037. Me in the future, I save a little money
Lineman
from every paycheck as a
hospitalized.
gift to Dave 2037, so he can spend it on things like anti-gravity boots or a hologram Doberman, something cool like that. I think Dave 2037 deserves it. He worked hard. What are you getting Steve 2037?
I guess I was thinking Steve 2037 would just
Heat stroke.
fend for himself.
Is that what it is?
All right, but don't expect to be borrowing my anti-gravity boots.
You want to have money in your future? You got to start saving now.
Hold on,
Putting
let me
some
see.
money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free ideas and easy ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
Hey, let's just hope Steve 2037 doesn't get his hands on a full time machine because he is going to come back here and
A
knock
liver
some sense into you.
transplant,
This message brought
where
to you
he
by the
received a
American
liver
Institute of
transplant and was
Certified
fighting
Public Accountants
for his life this
Hi, I'm
past
Danica
week.
Patrick, and proud aunt. Watching my nieces
Wow.
grow, play, and learn is amazing. But not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little girl sitting alone at the playground, she can't play like the other kids. She doesn't have the energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be her only meal today. It breaks my heart that this is the reality in our country, but it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. This food is then provided to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about using your imagination, learning, and having fun. These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply being a kid because they're hungry.
Yeah, I'm trying to
find
figure
out
out.
how you can help end childhood hunger in your
Former
community,
town
visit
township
feedingamerica.org.
player
Brought to
Gavin
you
Class,
by
who
Feeding
became
America
ill
and the
following a
Ad
team
Council.
workout in 2014.
We will never fully
undergoes
understand
liver
what we've
transplant.
asked of our military service
Okay,
members
that's in
or their families,
2014. This guy,
asking
Jordan
them to put
McNair.
themselves in
Yeah.
harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to keep them secure for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost for life, so that they might stand at ease. Join us at findwwp.org.
Okay, so it says here McNair. It says that the exact cause of death wasn't out immediately
We will
available.
never
according
fully
to the
understand
GoFundMe
what we've
page
asked
created
of
on
our
behalf his
military
mother,
service members or their
Tanya Wilson
families,
McNair,
asking
was
them to
airlifted
put
to the
themselves in
RM
harm's
Cali
way,
Shock Trauma
to
Center
endure
in
it all.
Baltimore,
But
where
we
he
do
received a
understand
liver
that it's our
transplant
turn,
and was
our
fighting
duty
for his
to keep
life
them
this past
secure
week.
for the rest of their
So I don't
lives.
know
Wounded
if it
Warrior
was that he
Project
died on the
long-term
field,
support
but maybe
programs
he
help
say
our
he was
most
getting a
severely
liver
ill or
transplant.
injured veterans live independently.
I don't know,
at no
something must
cost
have went wrong
for
with
life,
there.
so
Yeah,
that they
either
might
way.
stand
But I don't know if
at
that
ease.
does it happen to deal
Join
with
us
like him
at
being on the field?
findwwp.org.
You don't know, huh?
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick, and proud
I don't
aunt.
think so.
Watching my nieces grow,
Okay.
play, and learn is amazing. But not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little
think it was a
girl
little
sitting
different,
alone
yeah.
at the playground,
Hospitalized
she
late
can't
last
play like
month
the other
after
kids.
an organized
She doesn't
team
have the
workout.
energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be
Okay,
her
so
only
Maryland
meal
offensive
today.
lineman Jordan there
It breaks my
was
heart.
hospitalized
This is the
late
reality
last
of our country,
month
but it's something that
after an
Feeding
organized
America
team
is
workout.
working to
Died
change.
on Wednesday, according
Each
to
year, the
David.
Feeding America network of food banks
So it was
rescues
due to
billions of
he
pounds
was at a
of
workout.
workout.
food
He was
that have gone to
he was
waste.
hospitalized 'cause
This
of the
food
workout.
is then provided to families and children in need.
And then they
Being
tried to
should
give
be about
him
using
a
your
liver
imagination,
transplant, so
learning,
maybe his
having
liver was
fun.
failing. I don't know.
These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply
scary,
being
dude.
a kid
I know, that's a tough
because they're
deal.
hungry.
It really is.
To find out how you can help end childhood hunger in your community, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Behind the Mic.
Anything else, like NFL-wise?
Oh, we should talk about on NFL. I was looking at something.
Carson Wentz?
Yeah.
Okay.
Carson Wentz is back in mini camp. Oh, Kirk Cousins to shake off 2 red zone picks in the end zone ends on a high note.
With Minnesota?
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are 2 ones we can talk about.
Okay. Welcome back, Behind the Mic, live inside the one and only Grunions Sports Bar and Grill here in Manhattan Beach. Listen online, BehindTheMicShow.com. You can also take us with you on the Behind the Mic app. talking about a lot of different things tonight. Some NFL news before the break with Sam Darnold, Julio Jones talk as well. We were talking about off the break here. As far as what's going on in Minnesota with their new quarterback, with Kirk Cousins, off to a little bit of a rocky start, a little different than what we're hearing out of Jets camp with Sam Darnold. This is, anything is going to be kind of scrutinized. Just with all the money he signed and with the fact that they were really had their sights set on Kirk Cousins from the beginning, and they paid him all that money. Obviously, we've got a long way to go here, but you never want to see a guy throw a couple of picks, obviously. That's never easy. So, I don't know. I think the read right now for me on Kirk Cousins is that he's been a stat compiler, and this will obviously be a test because, as we mentioned before, this is a team in the Vikings who's ready to win now.
Yeah.
Not tomorrow, not next year, but now with Minnesota, with them coming up just short last year. So, Case Keenum out the door, Kirk Cousins in. They're going to need him to do a lot of big things. I don't know if he can necessarily – we talked before about Darnold in New York with the different targets he has there or lack thereof. In Minnesota, they got a little bit more. Dalvin Cook comes back coming off of his injury from last year. They have some targets, too, in the passing game. He's got a little bit more to work with. So, again, I think the pressure is ramped up on Kirk Cousins, but we're going to see what he's made of. I mean, there's really no excuses playing indoors there in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Oh, that beautiful stadium, by the way, great. I mean, really a great experience there at the Super Bowl. Underrated, that stadium. It really is. It's just, don't let the cold detract you from going there. But with Kirk Cousins, really there will be a lot of pressure on him to get it going initially from week one. Let's take a look at the Vikings schedule.
Yeah.
What it looks like coming out of the gates for them, what they've got to face, because obviously
when you
that's
look
where
at it, they match up, they match up, and they started with Atlanta. I believe that's a Thursday night game. And I mean, look, like that's going to be tough. I mean, I think they play Atlanta, right? That's their first game?
The Eagles take on Atlanta on that opening Thursday night.
But the Vikings, I mean, if you look at their schedule, I don't know. You got to see. We have to. Time will tell. Time will tell in terms of how he does, though. To be honest with you, I don't have that schedule right in front of me, so I don't know who they're playing first. But Kirk Cousins, they pay all this money to him, and he throws. There's a report that he throws he's struggling a little bit with his picks and things like that. I think it's going to take some time. But to me, he hasn't been the proven guy to – I don't know. He's not an elite quarterback to me. I don't still think he's a top 5 quarterback. I just don't.
As I said, he's a stat compiler.
Yeah.
Statistically, he is.
Statistically, he maybe is, but he –
But the proof's in the pudding of the big games. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, he hasn't won anything. And so – and in big games that he's played, he's folded. So I don't know. Like I can't see him doing anything spectacular this season. I think they probably have the same record. And then look, they start off playing they play the 49ers.
Yeah, so we got the schedule put up now. Yes, they'll take on San Fran.
Then the Packers, who just signed Mercedes Lewis a couple weeks ago.
That's tough. I mean, the first 3 out of 4, Niners, Packers, Rams. Oh, and then Eagles. So 4 out of 5. That's really tough.
Yeah. And then you got 2 probably easy games, and then you got to hit the Saints. That's not going to be a pushover.
They got a tough schedule just looking at it.
Yeah, I don't know, Brad. I don't think I would love to hear from a player to hear how things are going over there in Minnesota, and find out what's going on. But I can just tell you right now, that's a tough schedule, and I don't know if Kirk Cousins to me is the guy to get the job done. Obviously, the Vikings feel that he's their man, and he would give them over the top. But to me, it's like why. I still didn't understand why they made that trade anyways. Look, they were 1 win away from being in the Super Bowl. Or the championship, right?
We had one win away from the Super Bowl. One large win away.
One throw. Yeah, one large win away. And I just don't understand
why they didn't go with Case Keenum.
Yeah.
I think people have fallen in love. Look, if you're a big stats guy, if you're a big analytics type of guy, Kirk Cousins is really your guy. If you break it down like that, I don't know if they're big into that in analytics up there in the sabermetrics in Minnesota, but my hunch is they probably are, and they've looked at that, obviously, on paper, what he's been able to do. Look, he's played for, in his defense, he played for a dysfunctional franchise in the Washington Redskins. Yeah. Somewhat of a dysfunctional owner in Daniel Snyder. They have not been able to put it together down there for one reason or another. It was, a debacle with the RG3 era. Nothing really panned out well there. Then Kirk Cousins really took over for RG3 after that fell apart and went into his era. And it just, I don't know, again, things haven't worked out. They're starting to play in more of a tougher division. Washington, obviously, the Eagles emerging last year, winning the whole thing. The Giants are usually good. Last year was probably somewhat of an anomaly. That's a tougher division, and Washington really has just kind of been towards the bottom there, bottom feeders in the NFC East. Yeah. So in his defense, he's had a tough go of it with that. Different head coaches have been in there, different schemes, different playbooks, etc. Now, they've had chances in Washington. They have not been able to put themselves in any kind of position to, hardly get in the playoffs. When they did, they've been gone so fast you forget they were even there. Now, obviously, like I said, there's no more excuses going to a Minnesota team that's ready to win in 2018 with a lot of pieces in place. They felt they should have been there last year. With that defense, they bring back a really good defense this year.
Yeah.
They expect, obviously, with Dalvin Cook coming back, like I said, he will be maybe somewhat of the missing piece to the puzzle, they hope, as far as what can help them offensively to get over the hump. And, there's ways to look at this as far as the Vikings last year. Number one, if it wasn't for the Minnesota Miracle, they don't even get to the NFC title game. New Orleans is there.
Yep.
But you can look at, obviously, you can't ignore the fact that they did win that game in the divisional round. They did manage to punch their ticket to the NFC title game. But once they got there, the wheels fell off. And I think a lot of people internally thought that Case Keenum was exposed. I think people externally have felt that way as well, but obviously the people that matter are the ones up in ownership. I think they were just really concerned with bringing Case Keenum back in a conference where you have so many great young quarterbacks on the rise, and I think they were really concerned that if they were to give the money to a guy like Keenum long-term, might not be the best investment for them. Him matching up against, and look at it this way, for the next 5 years, do you want Case Keenum or Jimmy Garoppolo?
Yeah, that's a tough. I would have to go with Jimmy Garoppolo right now. Jimmy G probably.
Case Keenum or Jared Goff?
Casey Keenum took it to the promised land. Casey Keenum, man.
So okay. See, I think Jared Goff.
Casey Keenum took him to the NFC chip. That means a lot, And where I'm going with Jimmy G is because, look, I know what he's done with the Pats, and then I've seen what he's done with the 49ers.
Yeah.
And so he's just his talent across the board. But him with Jared Goff, I'm like, look, Jared Goff got eliminated in the first round. Rams had a remarkable job that we weren't expecting them even to make the playoffs, and they did. But as the old saying goes, we are who we thought they were.
That never gets old either. I'm telling you.
And so I look at it now, and I'm like, look, Casey Keenum has to be recognized at the fact that he took them to the NFC Championship and was one game away. They got blown out, but they were still one game away from winning the Super Bowl, and that means something. So, I don't know. Like you said, maybe he did get exposed and whatever the case may be, but Kirk Cousins has been exposed a lot. And so I don't think that, look, if you're going over stats and statistics, all right, great. That's what you're going to go off of. But I'm looking at proven winners who's brought teams from behind and has competed and won games. And the only one who has done that, I haven't seen Kirk Cousins really do that much. Like the beginning of the year when he first started with it, you like that. Remember that whole saying? you know, he was just coming in and nobody's really got tape on him and things like that. But
like,
now,
who the hell is this guy?
Yeah, who's this guy? But now, you know, after people start to settle in and get tape on him, you know, he got exposed a little bit. And I just think that when Minnesota even went with him, I kind of even scratched my head a little bit. Like, why? You know, why not a Nick Foles who won the Super Bowl?
Well, I thought Kirk Cousins was going to the Jets originally.
Yeah.
That's what I thought was going to happen because they were $100 million under the cap. They had so much money to spend. I thought they were originally going to go with him. They decided to pass on the veteran. They go with the rookie here in the draft, and maybe they start. So, you know, again, I think Minnesota, they're ready to win now, so they wanted to go with the guy who's a little more advanced, has had more years under his belt.
Here's my question to you, Brad, is out of all the quarterbacks who transition to new places, who's got the most pressure on them? You got Casey Keenum.
Great question.
You got Casey Keenum.
Yep.
You got Kirk Cousins.
Minnesota.
Nick Foles, who stayed
with the Eagles.
Stayed with the Eagles. And then you got Sam Bradford over there at
Arizona. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how long they roll with him before going.
And then you got Teddy Bridgewater over there with the Jets.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. There was a lot of shuffling this offseason with the quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes takes over in Kansas City. Alex Smith now. The most pressure. Guys who specifically moved places.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm still gonna say probably Kirk Cousins. Actually,
okay.
Probably Kirk Cousins because of he got the money now.
Yeah.
He got the payday. He wanted the big contract. He got it. Minnesota is a believer, and they're ready to win now. I keep stressing that because
out of all the teams, they're probably
the most ready to win now, and that's why I'm saying the expectation. It's not like Sam Bradford going out to the desert. Expectations aren't the Cardinals are going to get to the Super Bowl in 2018. You know what I'm saying?
And the Broncos got Casey Keenum.
Broncos got Case Keenum, and I think Denver, they're looking for a quarterback. That was their biggest problem last year. They didn't have a quarterback. That defense is good, but it's starting to age a bit. I don't know if there's going to – this isn't a win now or bust for them in 2018 in Denver, where it is in Minnesota. I look at some of the other. I mean, Washington is probably going to be irrelevant. I think Alex Smith is on the back half of his career at this point, so I don't think there's pressure there necessarily. Patrick Mahomes, I mean, we know the deal with Andy Reid in Kansas City there. I mean, I don't know if there's really necessarily pressure because it's year one for him as a quarterback.
He's talented.
Right, exactly. So that might be of a raw talent experiment there. We'll have to see. But it's got to be Kirk Cousins with Minnesota. That's the most pressure right now. And, I mean, as far as guys who maybe didn't play as much now, I think there's a lot of pressure in Carson Wentz in Philly.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's a lot of pressure with that because of, obviously, the job Nick Foles did, especially if Carson, I mean, obviously, look, he's their guy for the next 10 years plus.
Yeah.
In a perfect world. He is their guy. Doug Peterson is going to lead them as the head coach, and Carson Wentz is their quarterback. But it is Philly, and if he comes out and doesn't play well, Keith, in the first couple of weeks, maybe people are a little upset. Now, we don't even know if he's actually going to start week one Thursday night. Maybe they'd roll with Nick Foles.
Yeah, I mean, think about it.
But still, I think there is pressure. At some point in time, there will be pressure on Carson Wentz in 2018 to prove that he's over his injury and just to reassure everybody that he is the quarterback of the future there, the franchise.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say definitely like you. I'm going to say I think Carson Wentz, guys who move, Kirk Cousins, I get it. He has the most pressure because he got the most money. And to me, yes, they're ready to win now. They were 13-3 at the end of the season, at the end of the year, and they're expecting to either be 13. He has to either match that record or do better.
They went 13-3 last year?
13-3 they went last year.
So that's pressure. That's what I'm saying. That is pressure to match that or improve that.
You have to match that or either improve that. And so I think he's got the most pressure. However, in terms of you're talking about Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz got some reps today. So
he did. I mean, he's looked by all accounts with the highlights in the film. All right. Yeah, he looks like he's healthy. Number one, he's there's somewhat of a freshness to him being out there, and Obviously, they're excited about him coming back and leading them once again into this new season. So far, so good there. There's a lot of unknowns, obviously. But, there's pressure there. I think maybe coming in second, though, to that, probably Blake Bortles in Jacksonville.
Ooh.
There's a lot of pressure there. They're a team who's ready to win, even more so than Minnesota win now.
Yeah, they're definitely. I mean,
because we know they're solid in just about all areas except quarterback.
Yeah, and the quarterback. I mean, he kind of proved to everyone that, hey, I'm here to stay, and he proved a lot of people wrong, including myself. The way he played against the Patriots, the way he plays against the way he demolished the Steelers, played well. They found their identity through the playoffs. And
the question is, can they translate that over?
And translate that over. That is going to be the question, if they can actually do that. And I think they can. I think there's two teams in the AFC that are the top dogs, and it's the Jacksonville Jaguars and New England Patriots. And, the Steelers just are not there yet, in my opinion. With everything that's been going on with them. But, I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Patriots, and I think that's going to be what you're going to see match up again next year.
I agree. Those are the two best teams in the AFC right now. Pittsburgh, we're on the same page with this one. Until they prove it, they're just not there in that echelon. I say Blake Bortles with the pressure just because the expectation in Jacksonville is going to be them punching their ticket to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's going to be the expectation. Can he live up to that on a week-by-week basis? That's really going to be the big thing, because that team is good enough to get to the Super Bowl. They were good enough last year. You can make the case that obviously they lost to a better team, but still, if they had maybe more of an aggressive quarterback where they can open up the playbook, maybe things worked out a little bit different. Maybe they don't play as conservative in the AFC title game towards the end of the stretch.
Yeah, maybe. But when you look at it, it's going to be an interesting season.
Oh, yeah, and there's no doubt. It always is.
It is.
But this one is I feel like we say this every year, but with all the movement this offseason,
this is the one.
With the most important position, nonetheless.
Yeah, quarterback's a very popular position.
Yeah.
Also, you got to look down the line. Odell Beckham. They didn't make any moves. They stuck with Odell Beckham. Odell Beckham gets the money he wants. He's with the Giants, and you got Sterling Shepard there. Did Brandon Marshall? Did he leave there? I believe so. Or he's still there?
No, he's out.
He's out.
Yep.
So they just back with Sterling Shepard and Odell Beckham. It's going to be interesting to see what these guys do and how they perform. Well, a guy who I'm really excited to see is Kelvin Benjamin over there at Buffalo. How is Buffalo? The new Buffalo look. No Tyrod Taylor. Oh, Tyrod Taylor moving over to the Browns.
That's another one.
We never said
your
anything
team.
About that. My team. That's not my team.
See, there's no pressure though. There, he's going to Cleveland. There's no pressure.
Yeah, no pressure.
No
win
pressure.
a game. That's all you got to do. Win one game.
That's it. Just one, and you're set. That's going to be interesting. They got a lot of intriguing things going on there.
But Kelvin Benjamin.
Yeah, Buffalo is interesting because as far as the quarterback situation, I can't imagine they're going to start Nathan Peterman.
Yeah.
I would think that Josh Allen is going to get the opportunity, the rookie out of Wyoming, to start.
Yeah, I think they have to go there. I think they have to go there.
Yeah.
I think you have to. You have to get a fresh start, fresh look. And then, look, this is Kelvin Benjamin coming from the Panthers, steps in his role, and you got to see how he does with them a full season. And to me, it's just going to be an interesting year for football in general.
As far as Seattle, by the way, Brandon Marshall is now with the Seahawks.
Oh.
That's where he's at. A team that I feel not a lot of people are talking about.
Yeah, they made a lot of changes.
They gutted that defense a bit. Offensively, they still have probably one of the more talented quarterbacks in the league.
Which, let me tell you something, could be a good thing.
That could be.
Why. Yeah, Richard Sherman was always constantly in the media. That defense, they were an older bunch, but they were constantly doing things on social media. It was always confrontation.
Yeah.
And so, Carroll's not that type of guy. I think he's like that jolly old type of guy, and he's not. He just
pure
wants
football.
Pure football. And, he's going to play all his men there on that sideline. And I think this start is good. You know, Russell Wilson comes in. You don't have – now you've gotten rid of all the things like the Marshawn Lynch's, the Richard Shermans, the Michael Bennett's, the Cam Chancellors. Is he still there? Cam Chancellor, I believe he is.
Cam is still on the roster.
He's still on the roster, I think. But you got rid of mostly the cream of the crop. And so – you know, you still got Cam Chancellor there, but you got a whole new look of a team.
You do.
It's what they needed, and
probably.
And we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, you're right. It might work out to their benefit to kind of be somewhat of an underdog. A team who's not going to be an underdog anymore, though, we can make the case to we come full circle here talking about Carson Wentz and the Eagles. Doug Peterson has made it very clear that, you know, the dog masks are getting ripped off in 2018. He said that the other day. There's no more dog masks. They are definitely be hunted at this point. And that's a weird position for that franchise to be in, never really having that before. So I think, the unfortunate thing coming off of a Super Bowl championship in this type of particular season is with so many great teams now in the NFC, it's going to be a real tough thing for them with so many teams kind of coming up to their level or at least appearing so on paper. So we've got a lot to look forward to, not only in the NFC, but as you mentioned, the AFC as well. There's so many question marks. I mean, if I can just kind of sum it up to one, the biggest question mark right now in the NFL.
I got one for you.
Yeah, go for it.
Does Jameis Winston keep his starting job?
Ooh. I mean, I would hope so because, I mean, Tampa Bay is not exactly a quarterback breeding ground right now. I would hope he's able to keep it. It's a make-or-break year for Jameis in Tampa. Make-or-break year. He has to show year 3. He has to show that he is either going to be the franchise quarterback or maybe he doesn't really need to be there at all.
Yeah.
So I look at it this way with Jameis. It's either going to be all or nothing.
Yes.
We've seen that before with him. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of that again.
And you're going to have to make a move quickly with that. You can't fall behind. You can't go 6-7 games and thinking like, okay, now
not a chance.
It's got to be early. 2-3 games. If you can't get it done, we got to move on.
Absolutely. I'll give you mine. My biggest question mark, Andrew Luck.
Oh, yeah.
That is the biggest one for me. That is the biggest question mark right now in the NFL heading into this new season. What is the deal with Andrew Luck? What is his status? Is he really healthy? Or are they just trying to throw up some smoke and mirrors at us here and get us to think he is? But I don't think they even really know. I don't think ownership, the front office, I think the only people who really know is him and close family and friends, his agent. I think that's about it. And they're tight-lipped, obviously, on it. But I don't know. For a guy who didn't play all of last year, and
haven't been seen in camp.
Has not thrown a football yet, by all accounts, still unofficially. Yeah, that's my biggest question mark because if they don't have him, they're sunk as a franchise, and they know it.
Yeah,
they know that's going to be the biggest thing. Hey, that's going to do it tonight here from Grunions Sports Bar and Grill. Great show. We'll be back at it tomorrow night over in El Segundo from Kings Cove. Diving into day 1, round 1 from the U.S. Open on Long Island, and also day 1 of the World Cup from Russia. So lots on tap. Big sports weekend coming up. Big thanks tonight to Luke Norris, checking in, golf writer for fansided.com, getting us ready for tomorrow's second major of 2018. Hey, have a great night, everybody. For Keith, I'm Brad. Keep living the dream. We'll talk to you tomorrow.